Hey everyone, Artsy Omni here, and today is a very big day because today is the 5th anniversary of the launch of the Smashified series, which, in my mind, is really the birth of this channel. Now, we all know the story. It all started with the Rayman leak, yada yada yada. Let's not repeat ourselves. While I usually prefer to focus on where we might go rather than where we've been, today I think it's appropriate for us to look back at the past 5 years. After all, there might be some people who are new to the channel since we did do a collaboration with Andre from Mix and Jam, and there was also this really nice video that Aaron Nitmar made about the Rayman leak. So, if you want to reminisce about the Rayman leak, did I say reminisce? I'm just going to keep that in. If you want to reminisce about the Rayman leak, go watch that video, it's really great. But if you'll indulge me, I wanted to take a look at all of the things that we've done since the Rayman leak. A couple of years ago, I made a video in which I talked at length about the circumstances that led to the creation of Smashified. Now, I don't want to repeat too much of what I said in that video, so if you want to hear that story, I'll link to that at the end of this video. But long story short, my friend Phil and I were working on game development, and as we were working on our first game, I wanted to try making YouTube content just to start building an audience. So in the event that we did release a game, there might be an audience that might be interested in playing it. Spoiler alert, we haven't released any games yet, but we are close, so I'll talk a little bit about that later on. Anyway, my game development endeavors pretty much came to a halt when Smashified started picking up steam, and the channel became my primary creative focus for a couple of years. Over the course of those first 2 years, our team of artists grew from just myself to a team of 4. Chris Scheschel came on to be the co-lead of the project, with Andrew Coleman joining as a 3D generalist, and then eventually Sean Hicks rounding it out with his 2D expertise. Starting out, the renders were entirely 2D approximations of 3D models, but as the team grew and as we started learning new skills, we started doing a hybrid of 2D and 3D until eventually Smashified characters were entirely 3D, with all 4 artists doing 3D modeling and with minimal touch-up in Photoshop. Together we created a total of 25 Smashified character renders, or 26 if you want to count Klonoa, which technically happened before Smashified, but on top of that we also made 13 trophy models, which was sort of our way of branching out to projects that we thought didn't necessarily make as much sense for character renders. So even back then we had this itch to be doing more than just Smashified. Of course, it's important to mention that the majority of these projects were accompanied by musical tracks, which were made by a team of musicians. Daniel Platier was the first musician to join the project, and he worked on some really excellent orchestral arrangements for a lot of the videos, with a few tracks that branched out into other genres. And after that, we joined forces with Retrospector and Michael Williams, who each contributed some great electronic tracks to characters like K. Rool and Gino, and I personally had the opportunity to collaborate with Michael on the musical track for the Bomberman episode of Smashified, so that was a lot of fun. Aside from Smashified, there were some smaller projects that we worked on. Sean, Chris, and I made artwork for a cover for Nintendo Force magazine to pay tribute to Satoru Iwata when he passed away in July of 2015. We made a few time-lapse videos of the artwork that went into the magazine cover, and Thaniel and I worked on some musical arrangements of songs from the various games that Iwata had a hand in creating. Mostly, though, it was Thaniel doing the heavy lifting on that project when it came to the music. Now, I rewatched the videos when I was making this video, and man, I honestly, when I was watching it, I got a little bit emotional hearing the music and seeing the artwork again for the first time in a long time. So I think, I hope at least that we did justice to Iwata's legacy with that project. We also worked on a short-lived Splatoon series called Splatshine, which was led by Chris. The concept of that series was to imagine how Splatoon would cross over with Mario Sunshine. Now, of course, that pairing seems pretty obvious to a lot of us Nintendo fans, but in true Curio Matic fashion, we weren't just content to be curious and to have the idea. We had to do something with that idea. Now, a couple of the Splatshine pieces were given time-lapse videos on the channel, but most of it was done off camera, which culminated in a mini fake leak of sorts, which actually the other artists put together completely without my knowledge, because, if I had known about it, I probably wouldn't have approved, because I made the promise that I wouldn't do any more fake leaks after Rayman, so they were on their own on that, but it all worked out fine. Around mid-2017, things got pretty quiet on the channel for a number of months until the 3rd anniversary of the channel rolled around, and I posted this video, which I mentioned earlier, and it had a very clickbaity thumbnail. But this is the video in which I talked about being an aspiring indie game developer, and then I kind of stumbled into making YouTube content. And again, I'll link to that video at the end, but that was also the video in which I planted a seed for the idea to shift the focus of the channel. In fact, at the end of that video, I included this mysterious blank screen, which was actually a reference to the eventual rebrand. But of course, that rebrand didn't take hold for another year. But the 2 videos that followed, which were Otis Smashified and the Sonicified April Fool's video, both hinted at the channel rebrand and used assets that were eventually going to be used with the new brand. But after that, the channel once again fell silent. And you're probably noticing a theme here, right? All of these long periods of inactivity. But make no mistake, even in the silence leading up to the channel rebrand, we were still working on projects. And some of those projects did eventually make their way onto the channel. For one, we started developing the Curiomatic brand as far back as January of 2018, and I do plan on making a video about that process. But while the channel was dormant, we also started to pursue opportunities beyond the channel. Perhaps the most noteworthy was the opportunity to work with the fine folks over at Gears for Breakfast on their debut game, A Hat in Time. Now, we weren't involved with the project for the majority of its development, but then we ended up working with them directly on the HatKid Smashified episode in March of 2017. After that, we didn't really have much contact with them for a few months until they approached us about working on an asset for A Hat in Time just before its initial release. That asset was a new head for the Mafia model, which was made to more closely match Jenna Brown's illustrations of the character in her key art. Then in 2018, we had the opportunity to work with them yet again to produce the model for the new co-op character, Kid, who was designed by Jenna Brown and debuted alongside the game's first DLC pack, which was called Seal the Deal. As part of that, we also produced new 3D promotional renders of HatKid and Kid together, and a few fans actually noticed some similarities between those renders and Smash Bros. Renders. Go figure. Later that same year, we were given the chance to create a new outfit for HatKid as part of the second DLC pack called Nyakazo Metro. As you might expect, this came with another promotional render, this time of HatKid and the sinister-looking Empress. While all of this was happening, I personally also jumped back into game development at the start of 2017. Basically, Phil and I began to sort of pick up the pieces of the project that we had started way back in 2013, but then shelved in 2014. The company that we started together after graduating from college was called, and is still called, Drizzle Games, and the project that we've been working on is this humble little mobile game called Gutsy the Guinea Pig. It's a physics puzzle game about using magnetic attraction to navigate a collection of tiny obstacle courses as quickly as possible. Was that for a shameless plug? Now, Phil and I both have day jobs, and we've also been separately renovating our houses for the past 2 years, so we've only been able to work on the game in what little free time we can scrape together. And on top of that, we've essentially been working with no budget, so it's definitely taken a lot longer to make this game than it should. But despite all that, we finally unveiled the game last year with a trailer over on our Drizzle Games channel, and we plan to release the game sometime in spring of 2020. Now, we did announce that it would come out in 2019, but obviously that didn't happen. Now, I realize that a mobile game may not be all that exciting to our audience over here on Curiomatic, but to Phil and I, it's just been exciting to finally see a light at the end of the tunnel. So I plan to make a video or two about our journey here on Curiomatic. So hopefully that's something that you might be interested in watching. Although working on all of these projects has been very exciting for us, it did keep us from working on the channel. But we could only sit on that inevitable channel rebrand for so long, and for our 4th channel anniversary, it finally happened. Now, I had the silly idea of trying to make an ARG out of the event, which was met with a fair bit of animosity thanks to how poorly I handled it, but it all worked out in the end, and the launch was generally pretty successful. Since the rebrand, we've been able to show off some work that we've been doing on some long-term projects that we've had in the works, and we finally got around to finishing a Smashified that we've been working on intermittently over the course of a few years. We had a new addition to the team with Will Bowerman, who's been working on music for the Curiomatic brand, as well as the Bomberman Hero project, and he's even been able to show off some work on a game he's developing called Unearth. In the meantime, we've also been able to continue working on client work, which has been pretty rewarding, and that's something that we're going to be continuing to focus on in the long term. While we haven't been able to make nearly as many videos as I planned to this year, I'm still pretty proud of what we've been able to create for the channel. We've slowly made progress on our Bomberman Hero HD project, and we've had the opportunity to collaborate with other creators like Andre from Mix and Jam and Sammy Briggs, who's been leading the art direction for our Snowboard Kids 3 fan project. But I think what's been most important for us is that this past year has given us perspective. I think it's fair to say that when we launched the channel rebrand, we were way too optimistic about how many videos we thought we'd be able to make in any amount of time. But in spite of that, I do think the future is still very bright. This channel may never be as active as other channels here on YouTube who are able to do it full time. You know, there have been newer channels that have surpassed our sub count, and honestly, we may never even reach 100K subscribers, but I don't really think that's important. What I do know is this: we'll never lose the drive to create, and we'll never lose our passion for our favorite games. So while we're looking to the future, there are a couple of things that I'd like to do differently going forward. First, we're going to be simplifying our Patreon. The honest truth is that this channel isn't our primary focus, and given where we are in our careers, it just isn't feasible for us to make good on the kinds of rewards that we had for the higher tiers. So instead, we're going to let the Patreon function as more of a tip jar that will give you access to behind-the-scenes posts that we'll be posting to a special channel on our Discord server. I do have some ideas for some possible milestone goals, like maybe a podcast, but that's something that probably won't happen for a long time. I'm also hoping to get back into doing art streams, but rather than muddying the focus of the channel, we're going to be doing streams over on Twitch. So basically that'll let us be a little bit more spontaneous without clogging up people's subscription feeds. So you'll find a link to our Twitch channel in the description. And as far as plans go, that's really as specific as I can be. I can't promise that we'll be more active here on YouTube or that we'll be able to make any specific content, so rather than making promises, I'd like to share my hopes. I hope to be able to make a few more Smashifieds. We've had a few projects in stasis for a long while now, so I think it's about time that we finish them off while Smash Ultimate is still relevant. I'd love to be able to collaborate with other creators out there, or even just shine a spotlight on people who are making cool stuff, even if it's just in the form of interviews or discussions. I'd also like to create ways for the community to be more directly involved with projects that we work on for the channel, and that's something that can probably be facilitated on our Discord server. And while I can't give any specific dates, there are a lot of videos that I'd like to make. For instance, I want to be able to talk about the process of creating logos for things like our game bites or even the Curiomatic brand itself. I want to create more editorial or essay style videos about topics that I'm passionate about. I want to start focusing on the re-rendered series more and explore just more unexpected and fun ideas. I even think it might be fun to talk about some of the projects that have never been finished and may never be finished, because boy, there is a lot of that. So if any of this sounds interesting to you at all, please let us know in the comments. All that said, it really has been an interesting 5 years, to say the least, and while there may not be as much quantity as you might expect from that amount of time, I think we can be proud that we never compromised on quality. So to commemorate these past 5 years, I've put together a little shirt design, which I've actually been teasing a little bit using those countdown Twitter posts. And it's only going to be available to order for a limited time, but I figured, we don't do merch very often, and it's a big milestone, and it's a way to support us. So be on the lookout for another video that's going to go up in the next few days. But above all, I personally just want to say thank you. Thank you to our subscribers who have stuck with us through the highs and the lows. Even when our channel lies dormant for months, there are still those of you who come back to watch new videos, and that's so amazing. Thank you to our patrons who have supported us on Patreon over the years. I mean, it cannot be overstated how generous it is to give your hard-earned money to a channel like this, just to see it continue. So I'm always going to be grateful for that. And last but not least, I want to thank all of the people who have contributed to this channel. Chris, Andrew, Sean, Daniel, Michael, Retrospector, Will, you've all made this channel what it is. And even though some of us may no longer be actively working on content for this channel, the door is always open, and I'm optimistic that our paths could cross in the future. So here is to the future. Maybe this channel will still be around in 5 years, maybe it won't, but one thing is certain. I'll still be curious, and I'll want to make something out of it. So thank you so much, all of you, for watching and for making these past 5 years incredible. My life has been forever changed by the fact that this channel has been a part of it, so thank you so much.